Good afternoon, team. Well, my original goal today was to give you a quick update on the stay home order and where we're at in Michigan, and then give you an update on how we finished the month of May and where we see business going from here. Unfortunately, a lot's happened in the last week. It's amazing how all of a sudden coronavirus is hardly in the news anymore. I'm sure you've all noticed our country's going through a very difficult and awful time right now. Um, and I just want to acknowledge that, and I think we all need to be cognizant that there are a lot of people out there that are stressed, that are hurting, that are going through difficult times personally. If you think just a couple months ago we were dealing with fear of the unknown as coronavirus came into the United States and came into Michigan. And as that became more real, and as we started to face seeing people get infected and then the stay at home order, that fear became about our own health and our family's health and our coworkers' health, and quickly a fear about our finances as we were forced to shut down and people were losing their jobs or working less hours or having less work to do. And now, just as that starts to get better, and the last few weeks have certainly been on the upswing, we see a terrible event happen in this country that is really tearing us apart and exposing some challenges that this country has faced for many, many decades. And a lot of people are hurting and in pain and stressed, and I think that we all feel it and we have to be cognizant of it. Your coworker, your friend, your neighbor, our customer. This is affecting everyone in different ways, and we can't necessarily put ourselves in each other's shoes or pretend to know how others feel. But I think it's important to remember and realize that we don't always know what's going on with others, but it's our job to be empathetic and to treat everyone as human beings equally and show them that we care, even though we can't shake somebody's hand or give them a hug or put our arm around them today due to social distancing. Um, it's important that we just do what we can for our fellow human beings. Again, whether it's our coworkers or our neighbors, our friends, our customers, etc. And this whole situation, as I talk about that, reminded me of a video that we used to show with the consumer experience movement that we haven't used in a couple years, and some of you probably haven't seen. So I want to take a minute and roll this video because it's one that, to me, I've always found emotional, and I think it really does a great job of telling a story of what matters. The video is called Everyone Has a Story, and here we go. So I hope you understood the point of that we don't always know what's going on in everyone's lives, what their background is, what they've been through, both good and bad. Um, but our job is to work with our coworkers and take care of our customers and be respectful, even though we don't always know. As I watched that video, I think, well, gosh, if we did it today, we could think, worried about bringing coronavirus home to a family member, maybe just lost a family member to coronavirus, dealing with challenges of inequality or racism in their lives, et cetera. I mean, the challenges that many people are facing today we didn't even think about perhaps a few years ago, but they're real and they're here, and we need to be cognizant of that. So I ask all of you just to be empathetic and understanding in your dealings with each other and especially with our customers as we all move forward through these challenges that life is throwing at us. Okay, next, I did want to give you an update on Michigan. Hopefully, you all read my note on Friday, or you've heard a lot of updates in the media. So today, Thursday, is the first day we've been able to open the showroom without appointments. So that's been good. Face masks are still required, so we have the notices posted on the doors and throughout the showroom. And so far, I think our employees and our customers have both been doing an excellent job of that, so that's good to see. Our customer lounge for service is back open with social distancing in place. It's been interesting to watch. Very few customers are using it. I think many customers still seem more comfortable sitting in the service drive where it's open air blowing through, and that's fine. I think it's important to give people a choice and allow them to do whatever they feel is most comfortable, as long as we're providing an environment that is as safe as possible. So for the foreseeable future, nothing really changes. We're going to continue to wear masks. We're going to continue to wear gloves. We're going to continue to practice social distancing, do a lot of transactions electronically, and that sort of thing. For the rest of the world, in terms of Michigan, restaurants and bars are allowed to open at a limited capacity starting Monday, so that's kind of the next step forward. I know we're all waiting for be able to get haircuts and a few other services that are still closed. Um, but that hasn't happened quite yet. That'll be the next thing, probably a few weeks away still. I just want to remind everybody, though, the way the governor is making these decisions is based on the data. And every day they're watching how many people get diagnosed with COVID-19 and what part of the state they live in. And if they start to see a spike as people get together in larger groups again, as people get comfortable perhaps not wearing masks everywhere, as people start going to bars and restaurants, if they see these numbers spike, uh, they're going to come back and they're going to reissue a stay-at-home order or put stricter rules on businesses or what have you. So please, besides what you're doing here to protect yourselves and your coworkers and your fellow employees and your customers, please be careful in your personal life, both for you and your family. And just remember that we are all in this together. Finally, I want to give you an update on the business. Uh, I was happy to see the way May ended up all across the store in sales between new and used together, delivered over 500 vehicles, which is really amazing considering how we started and some of the challenges we were under. The showroom was completely closed until the last week of the month. So great job to the team. Uh, Used vehicles, the pre-owned, certified pre-owned status board, if you will, we are still #1 in the state for certified pre-owned, both for the month and the year, which is awesome to see. We're just trying to find some more inventory. Service, parts, collision, everything trending in the right direction. The last week or so has been good. So from here, I'm going to show you some slides that give you a little more detail about how COVID-19 has impacted us, where we started the year, where we are now, and where we hope to be. So I wanted to give everybody a quick overview of what our sales and businesses looked like in the last couple months dealing with COVID-19 compared to prior year. So let's start with new vehicle sales. The year started off in January and February just a touch below prior year. The blue line is 2019, the orange line is 2020. And then you see what happened in March, which is really when our business typically picks up. We lost that last week or so of the month and we closed substantially down. April, we were able to open back up in the back half of the month and shockingly almost got back to last April level, which was pretty impressive. And then May, sales were up substantially, but last May was a really good month. That's when business typically takes off for the summer. We didn't quite get there. So June is another month where, usually in volume, it will be similar to May. We will see if we can continue on this growth trajectory and get back to a point where in June we meet or exceed prior year levels. Our biggest challenge in June is going to be some of the inventory levels that are a little light, especially on the SUVs, Escape, Edge, and Explorer. We move on to used vehicles, it's a little different. January and February were kind of similar to last year. March fell off quite a bit because of COVID, the last week that we weren't open. And April was a really difficult month. It was hard to get used cars up and running again in the middle of being partially shut down and not being able to do test drives. But we really bounced back in May and basically tied last May, which was really impressive. Ironically, now the challenge with used cars is also inventory because we are very light on inventory. And this is when summer selling season really takes off. So we're trying to acquire as much inventory as we can and hope that we can continue this pace going through the summer. As we look into service, we started the year really strong in service. January and February were both ahead of prior year in terms of service labor. March was about equal despite COVID impacting us towards the end of the month. April fell off, of course, because we were fully closed for 2 weeks. And as we reopened towards the end of April, it was at a much lower pace. You see May bouncing back, getting back about 70% or so of the way towards last May. And the good thing is throughout May, every week continued to improve from the week before. And this last week is probably the first week where I'd say it looked almost normal. So we're getting very, very close to pre-COVID levels in terms of the number of ROs coming through the door each day and the amount of work going through the shop. So that's good to see. I'm really hoping that June is very close to last June, hopefully off not much more than 5 or 10%. That's the goal. We'll see if we can accomplish that. Collision Center, a little bit different story. Collision Center in January and February was about equal to last year. March slid off a little bit, but the impact wasn't felt as severely in March as in some other departments. But April was a very difficult month. There was hardly any jobs completed in April. Of course, collision jobs take longer to do. And when we reopened, there was really no work to start with. So we had to work on bringing those jobs back in and getting parts for them. And some of those are a lengthy procedure. So April was pretty brutal. It was nice to see March bounce back. We were more than halfway back to kind of a average month. And this last week is probably the first week where in terms of what we've taken in and the number of jobs that we have going through the system feels almost normal. So that's good to see. Jason and I are optimistic that June looks like more of a normal month in the collision center as well. And then finally, the parts department. So of course, parts is a combination of all the stuff that goes through the service shop, all the stuff that goes through the collision shop, as well as wholesale parts and retail parts sold over the counter. So we started January and February just a touch above last year. March was actually just a touch above last year as well, which was impressive to see despite coronavirus hitting us at the end of March. April, of course, a really difficult month. That's a combination of all of those factors, but especially the collision center having very little business in April. And then you see parts bouncing back up in May, about 70% towards normal. Of course, this is also the time of year when things do pick up in service and parts traditionally. So we'll see where we end up in June, but we're certainly on the right trajectory bouncing back and hoping that we're almost all the way back in June and ideally back to normal and maybe even exceeding normal as people get out and about. There has to be a lot of pent-up demand and vehicles that need parts and repairs in July and more into the back half of the year. So that's a quick update on the status of the business. And with that, I'd like to close with a reminder that frontline and essential workers are currently eligible for a complimentary maintenance package through the Ford Pass Rewards program that runs through the end of June. So if you know somebody that is a healthcare worker, is a first responder, there's a list of about 11 categories of professions. It's on our website of people that are eligible. If you know somebody or somebody in your family perhaps that's in that category, or of course any of our customers, please remind them. And if they don't need a works package right now, we can get them the points and they can come back and use the points later. So that's a really big deal. It's getting a lot of positive publicity, which is cool to see. Um, Thank you to our service team for trying to keep up with all those. We're going to do a ton of works packages in the next 4 weeks. Um, it's nice to see, though, we continue to get positive feedback from our customers, both sales and service, for the things that we're doing for the community and the way that we are working hard to take care of our customers and keep them safe through all of this. So thank you for all of your efforts. Stay safe, stay healthy. I'll talk to you soon.